Welcome to the Sales Compensation Show, where we share the latest sales performance insights through in-depth discussion with experts. Season 3 of our show is your backstage pass to discovering how today's most successful sales and revenue ops teams support go-to-market strategy and improve sales performance. Plus, we'll explore what we can learn about incentives from different industries more broadly. Subscribe to hear how leaders are unlocking new growth, implementing the latest compensation trends, and their priorities for improving go-to-market performance. I'm your host, CEO of Forma.ai Nabeil Alazzam. Well, I'm here today with Dr. Jack Schafer, and today we're looking to translate FBI-grade influence into day-to-day sales comp. Super excited to dig in. Jack, would love to just jump right in. I really appreciate you being on. I think it's been amazing to kind of interact in the past and to read your books and see some of the content that you've shared online. I would love for you to share and tell us a little bit more about who you are and a bit more about your background.
Well, I started off as a police officer in Hinsdale, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago. I did that for about 5 years. Then I joined the FBI. And then in the FBI, I was assigned to the southwestern United States. And so I did a lot of homicides, child molestation, rapes, more of what cops do. And then I became a pilot for the FBI, and I flew for several years. And then after that, I went to language school and learned Korean in Monterey, California. And then I got assigned to Los Angeles, where I worked counterintelligence. Counterintelligence is nothing more than we train intelligence officers to go overseas to steal other countries' secrets, and they send their intelligence officers to the United States to steal our secrets. So I counter the intelligence. So basically, I catch spies. So I caught a number of spies out in California, and then I was interviewed by the behavioral analysis program at headquarters. I joined the behavioral analysis program. Behavioral analysis unit is different from the behavioral analysis program. The BAU are the people that go to crime scenes and they try to figure out who did it based on the evidence at the crime scene. We, on the other hand, have subjects that we want to recruit. We want them to confess. We want them to join us and spy against their country. So we catch them spying in the United States. We convince them, now you spy for us. So we call that a double agent. Part of the behavioral analysis program is we gather all the information we can about a person that we're going to recruit. Say we want to recruit somebody from the Chinese consulate or the embassy. We find out who we want to recruit. We learn everything we can about that particular person. And then we sit in a room and we dissect their personality and we look for weaknesses and vulnerabilities. And then we design recruitment strategies to take advantage of those weaknesses. So there's a little bit difference between the BAU and the BAP.
When you're saying you were catching spies, you're basically catching them in the act of committing espionage, right?
Yes.
And at that point, you were not converting them; you were just catching them for the criminal act of espionage.
Yes, there's two types of spies. There's the spies in the United States who are US citizens, and they spy for other countries against the United States to become traitors. So you have to get a profile. Who is the person that's most likely to commit espionage in the United States? Number one, they have to have access to classified information. Number two, the information has to be wanted by other countries. Three, they have to somehow contact the other country and say, I'd like to be a spy for you. Then they have to somehow get the documents out of the facility. And then they have to meet with a foreign intelligence officer. And then they have to actually make the exchange. And then they have to continue being a spy. It's very stressful.
And so you caught 5, and that's what led
Yes.
to you kind of being brought in. So then once you were in the BAP, your goal was not just to find these people and bring them to justice. It's actually to try to convert them to becoming, to work for the
But
US government.
our job was to go in and evaluate information that other agents gathered, like myself in the field.
Yeah.
And they would come to us and say, all right, we have this target. Here's all the information we have on the target. What would be a good strategy for us to use to recruit that person?
Okay.
So our job was more a consulting role. We taught people and consulted with the agents on how they could do it, training other people to do it.
And what's an example of the most, difficult persuasion or conversion that you've consulted on or worked on yourself?
Well, actually, I use the example in the book. We had a Russian agent we wanted to talk to. He had very valuable information, but he wouldn't talk to us, and he was locked up. So basically, all I did was show up and sat there with him because there's a formula that we use, and it's called the Personal Relationship Index. It's basically proximity times the function of frequency plus duration times intensity. So if we just merely share space with somebody, then we're predisposed to like that person. So he fears me because I'm the FBI. So we have to get rid of the fear. And then once fear has been subdued, then that fear becomes curiosity. So every day I would go in and sit and read the newspaper and then leave. Did that for a number of days. And finally he says, well, what do you want? I says, well, I want to talk to you, but you don't want to talk to me? I respect that. And then I leave. And then we're introducing something else. Increased restraint increases drive. It's like you tell your daughter, don't date, some snake guy with purple hair and all kinds of tats, right? If you say don't date him, what's he going to do? She's going to date him. So increased restraint increases drive. So I said, I don't want to talk to you unless you're ready. So I continued more. I was there frequently. I spent longer and longer time there. And then I increased the intensity a little bit by the eyebrow flash, the head tilt, the smile, uh, empathic statements, those types of things, rapport building, looking for common ground. Then eventually he says, well, what I want to talk to you. I want to know why you keep coming. Why are you here? I said, oh, okay. And then I talked to him. But he then came to me. Sales is a lot like that, isn't it? Using that personal relationship index.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
you want to make a sale with somebody, you don't know them, it's a cold call. The first thing you should do is just be where they're at, be at the same conference they show up at, be in the same meetings, be in the same area.
In the world of sales compensation, you're working with sales teams and you're always selling an idea or something. You're selling a new plan change. You're selling a new direction, a new model that you want to apply. I think like all of that to different stakeholders you're selling, and it's a good takeaway for the audience to be like, spend time, be in the same locations as your sales
You
reps.
know, and the beauty is you don't even have to talk to that person. If you share the same space with somebody, you're predisposed to like one another. Now, you want to be there frequently, be with that person or in the area as much as you can. And spend as much time as you can with somebody, because the more time you spend with somebody, the more you're able to influence them. And then you add intensity. You increase intensity, you get that person to like you, then people will be more likely to buy something from you or listen to your sales pitch if they like you.
Everything in life is sales. Just what are you
Yes.
selling? An idea, a product. To me, it's the techniques that you listed, especially in the like switch. You've put a framework around how influence can be created that probably maybe came naturally to you, and then you can apply it to all aspects of sales.
Good salesmen do this instinctively. Salespeople do this
Yep.
instinctively. They
Yep.
don't know why they do it. They don't know how they do it. They know they do it and it works.
Yep.
So if you're not one of those lucky people, you need some, like you say, a framework or formulas or a template. How do I even start talking to somebody that I don't even know and I want to influence them? How do I do that? Well, proximity, frequency, duration, and intensity.
Yep.
So it gives you
And
that
so
formula.
and so for most of the audience, they're working in the corporate world. They are on the operational side of the business, but again, they're selling ideas, they're selling change. And so maybe just to double click into those frameworks, because I really enjoyed some of the things that I read about and we talked about in the past, whether through Like Switch or the other sessions that we've had. But what are the tactics that you apply when you're trying to persuade someone or instill change, and how you overcome those hesitations and obstacles?
Well, I think once you build rapport with the person, you have some kind of working rapport with that person. Now you have to find out what is the obstacle between them and change. Now, if you were to directly ask somebody, what's the obstacle? They're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't even know the obstacle that's between them and change. So here's what you have to do. You have to use something called elicitation. Elicitation is a technique you use to get people to reveal information without them knowing that they're revealing secret information or sensitive information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a presumptive statement. Either it's right or wrong. I'm just going to make a statement. If I'm wrong, there's a psychological principle of people want to correct other people, because when we correct other people, we are above them somehow because we're smarter than them. So if you make a wrong statement, people overwhelmingly want to tell you the right answer, and then they want to add something to it. So it's funny. In my classroom, I'll intentionally show them the technique, and then 2 seconds later, I'll ask one of the students, I'll say, wow, that was a good observation for a freshman. And this is a senior class. And she just bit her lip and her tongue, and she said, I'm not going to fall for that. I said, okay, as long as she understands what it is. It
Yeah.
wasn't 5 minutes later. She says, Mr. Schafer, I'm a senior. And I said, why did you have to tell me that? She says, I know what you were doing, but I had to correct you. It's over. I had to do it. I said, okay, I'm just demonstrating the power of the presumptive. So you just throw something out. So you can say, so change is difficult in your company.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, and as soon as, and there's another one. If you ask somebody a yes or no question and they begin their response with the word well, it means they are about to give you an answer they know you're not expecting. The example I like to use is I'll send my kid to the bedroom, do your homework. Nothing but shenanigans going on in there, no homework. He comes out and he says, Dad, or I asked him, I said, did you do your homework? He says, well, so what answer does he think I'm expecting? The answer that he thinks I'm expecting is, yeah, Dad, I did my homework. If he says, well, it means anything but yes. Anything but yes is no. So now let's go back to our example. So changing your company comes slowly and it's very difficult because people are entrenched. And if they say, well, that means the opposite of what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice way to
Yeah.
identify an obstacle without somebody realizing that they're revealing an obstacle.
Yeah. 100%. And so you use the presumptive statement. It's one of the elicitation techniques that's available to you in terms of like to get information out, to be able to navigate, I guess, how you go
Yeah.
about making that change or
Well,
influencing
well, it's like
change.
you're in Los Angeles and things are a little bit different.
I'm actually in Toronto.
Oh, see what I just did?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah. Los Angeles is very nice.
I taught you the technique. I demonstrated the technique. I used the technique on you, and you fell for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is actually.
You couldn't go another second without correcting me.
Yeah. Like this, so this is where it's again. It seems like it's so innate, right? Like it obviously is. It's an innate human quality to the way our brains work. We want to. Yeah. We just want to. I mean, genuinely, it was more of clarifying for you. It was not a trying to maybe
That's
prove you wrong or something. But
when you talk to people, all you want sometimes is clarification, right?
yeah,
Of what that
exactly. So it's more
obstacle
about get
is.
like yeah,
That
yeah.
prevents me from convincing you to introduce change into your organization.
But what's interesting is you think about, okay, you have and especially in the world of comp, you have this concept of like the changes to compensation, right? Someone's salary, someone's pay. There's a lot of political or very maybe not even to use the word political. The difficulty with making change to compensation is that there's a lot of stakeholders that have a say or an input or desired outcome because they are impacted by these changes. So HR is looking out for, regulate legislation, legal risk. You have finance that's looking out for the financial costs of the business and worried about overruns or expenditures that go beyond what's budgeted. Sales teams are looking for the best outcome and motivations that align with their goals and achieving the outcomes. And these are not always connected. So what's interesting is like the presumptive technique is actually a good one because no one's going to tell you exactly why they're maybe opposing right away. But if you make that assumption, you put it out there, you're either going to validate that assumption is true or very quickly invalidate it and help
Yeah,
you
they'll
course
correct you.
correct. Yeah,
But you know what the problem with using that technique? Most of us have a very difficult time saying something we know is not correct because of our egos. People have a
that
hard
is,
time saying something that they know is false that makes them look less intelligent or less superior to somebody who's going to now correct them.
yes, you're right. So even you saying like Los Angeles is an example in terms of where I'm from, you have to put aside that I don't care that this person thinks that I actually thought it was Los Angeles.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So you gotta what we call you gotta suspend your ego.
yeah,
And here I'll give you another clue. Now you can take a couple of these techniques and people won't even know that you're reading their minds, but you're not really reading their minds, you're reading their body language, right? So if you go to you want to talk to all these stakeholders, and you're going through a series of points, talking points that you want to persuade them with, and you want to know what talking point are they connecting with, which ones are they having a hard time with. So you look for something called the lip purse, and I'll demonstrate it, but it'll be exaggerated so people
yeah.
can see it. It's just the lips come
Interesting.
out. You
Okay.
see a lip purse, this is what it means. It's powerful. It means that they have just formed a negative opinion about what you just said. Now you
Yep.
know. Salesmen use this. You go through all the safety things in the car and you don't see anything. Now all of a sudden you say, well, what's the price? And then a lip purse. Now the salesman knows what's the price. If you say the price, there's no lip purse, you get to the color or the texture of the interior or the engine, whatever, and then you see a lip purse. Now you know that's the problem. Now, you use an elicitation technique. Once you see the lip purse, you want to use an elicitation technique to get them to change their mind before they have a chance to articulate no. Because once people articulate no, then that's called the psychological principle of consistency. When you say no, you're going to be consistent with no. It's very difficult to change somebody's mind once they articulate no. So your goal now is to get that person to change their mind before they have a chance to say no. So you see the person, you say, I'll bet you're thinking that this organizational change would be too much of a disruption for the flow of the organization. You see how you see the lip purse?
Yeah.
I'll bet you're thinking, it's called like it's an illicit, I'll bet you're thinking, it's called quoting internal dialogue. So I'm going to quote your internal dialogue. I bet you're thinking this might be a little hard to make this change in the organization. And then what are they going to say? Well, which means so they'll say, well, and then all of a sudden they'll be that then they will start to tell you they'll actually be like predisposed to tell you some reason why it's going to be difficult.
And now you know what you're
Yes,
actually influencing or you're trying to
yes,
shift in terms of
yes.
mindset. I mean, so it's interesting because, there are some times when in comp specifically, you're rolling out these bigger changes. I mean, to me, like the big takeaways are try to do it in person.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that getting, proximity, we all work in a remote world in the large teams, but bigger changes should be, presented or shared in person if possible.
Yeah, I think it's more effective than
Yeah.
online because you
Yeah.
don't get the nuance, you don't get the same nonverbal indicators.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little disadvantages in terms of the back and forth reading, the proximity, the relationship building that you're going to get. But the elicitation technique of uncovering the real pain or reason, to me, it's best done one-on-one, right? Because
Yeah.
you're trying to bring out thoughts like I bet you're thinking. I mean, that's a very powerful one to be, before they even have the chance to react to get it out. But I imagine that's better one-on-one versus in a group setting.
Yeah, and the other thing you want to add, if you can, is 70% of all information is exchanged over food and drink. So if you're meeting face to face, you got the advantage of the verbal cues being clearer, and then you also are eating something or drinking something because people are predisposed to provide information to other people when they eat or when they drink alcoholic beverages or whatever, any kind of drink. Now, the other thing you want to do then is you want to actually buy the food or the drink for the other person, because then that initiates the reciprocity
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah.
If I give you something, you're going to have this predisposed feeling to give something back to me equal or greater value.
Yeah.
So when you want to convince somebody of something face to face over food and drink, and you buy it, now that's a good start.
Yeah.
And then you use the rapport building techniques, common ground, empathic statements. You can do lots of things like do me a favor is something very subtle that people don't realize. It's a great rapport building tool because the golden rule of friendship says if I if I make you happy, if I make you feel good about yourself, then you're going to like me. So how do you feel when you do somebody a favor? You feel pretty good, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I say, hey, can you do me a favor and take a look at this proposal? Can you do me a favor and ask about this? Can you do me a favor? You don't want to constantly do it, but you want to pepper your conversation with, hey, can you do me a favor? Because when they do the favor, people feel good about themselves. And the golden rule of friendship says, if I make you feel good about you, you're going to like me. So these are
Yeah.
all kind of subtle techniques you can use to get people to like you. And you know what the beauty of it is? If it doesn't work, what's the downside? Nothing.
Yeah.
What's the upside? Could be anything.
Yeah. I feel like remember your story in the book around your travel and kind of one of the stories you shared earlier in terms of like getting upgrades and being able to get to just by kind of providing that influence. I mean, to me, all this again works to influence any sort of decision or that you're trying to get made, whether it's a change of a plan or change of the way that we structure the sales organization as an example. But how have you found it different when you're trying to influence that one person in that moment at the airport, one person making a decision on where you're going to sit or if you're going to be able to get on that flight versus trying to influence a group where the decision is going to be made in a group environment. So how do you influence as much as possible before that, given that everything kind of shifts as soon as everyone gets in that room and it's
Tell you what you can do. Number one, you want to build rapport with those people individually. So if it's possible, I would call each one of those people and say, hey, I just want to give you the agenda for the meeting. And then you chit chat a little bit. How's it going? What's going on? And then they get to like you. They get to know you. That's
yeah,
the first step. That's a big step because if they
yeah,
like you, they're more apt to look at your presentation
yeah,
and agree with you. And
yeah,
I do this when I'm speaking even to a large group. I will go around before I present and I will shake hands with everybody in that group. Hi, I'm your speaker today, Jack Schafer. How you doing? Where are you from? What are you up to? So what I've done now for the 10 or 15 minutes before I go on, I've already built rapport with those people. And then when I get up there, I don't have to build rapport with them. It's already built, right?
yeah.
I know people by name. I can call them out. Hey, Tim, what's your take on this? Or what do you think about this?
And
Now,
so for someone in an organization, like again, the sales comp leader that is looking to drive that influence, they may have already known these people. They work at this company. They've worked with these individuals over the years. Uh, are they? I mean, they're just looking to refresh that relationship
yeah,
because they may have not interacted in a while. And I don't, is there any data points or any?
yeah, there's something
Yeah.
called the bridge back.
Okay.
So what you want to do with your clients or people you want to influence, you want to know something about their personal life. And when you see them again, you say, oh, how's your wife? Bridging back to a time where we met before. So we don't have to start rapport all over again. We pick up rapport where it was left off when you use the bridge back.
Yeah.
So how was your vacation? I understand that you were working on this or that. How did that turn out? So you bridge back to the time where you had good rapport. Then you build from that point forward, not from scratch. And
Got
the
it.
other thing, you want to look for mirroring. When mirroring is just when we fold our arms like this. If somebody likes us and we're good rapport, they fold their arms back. So they follow us. So what you want to do when you're giving your presentation, you want to look for head nods. You're going to want to look for people leaning forward, open posture, people that are receptive. Now, do you have to convince them of your idea? No, they're already convinced. You look for people with the lip purses that are leaning backwards, their arms are like this, they're shaking their head a little bit. Those are the people you have to focus on and
Yeah.
using the lip purse and empathic statements and elicitation. Oh, I bet you're having a
And
hard time with this concept. Maybe you can share with us your problems or something, right?
and do like presumptive statements in big group settings work just as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. In fact, it works more because there's peer pressure.
So they need to correct. Yes.
Yeah. I do
Yeah.
that with juries. When I'm testifying in court, this is stuff I've done my whole career.
Yeah.
When I look at a jury, I take my chair and I turn it to the jury. And who am I looking at? The people that are leaning forward going, yeah, or the people that are like this, then look for lip purses. And I said, those are the people I want to convince. So I focus on them.
Yeah.
You don't want to convince the people that are already on board.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because again, all this stuff, like the bridge back, like to me, I'm like, a lot of this it just happens instinctually. It's like just being a human being. Like that is just it's a natural thing to do. So it's interesting because it's like you put a framework around, I guess, how to be a very, it's likable. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, the book, The Light
It's
Switch.
called the like
Exactly.
switch.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is this is what normal people do when they're in normal relationships with other people.
Yes.
Some people
Yes.
do it instinctively, and because of social media,
Yeah.
people have lost the skill
Yeah.
that we used to get when we were kids in high school, in college, in normal business world. We're losing the skills. All I'm doing is giving people the technique. I'm identifying the technique that most people that are very good at this use instinctively.
Yeah.
So I can teach somebody to become very good at this by giving them formulas. This is the
Yeah.
technique, A, B,
Yeah.
C, D.
I mean,
Perfect
the
relation-
interesting part is, you look at the average profile of, a sales comp and sales operations leaders, technical, analytical, they have to be a good kind of storyteller really to tell the narrative of change. but most lean into the operational technical piece. And so I think this is kind of a good, it's a good framework of what you said earlier around like the consistency principle. The moment someone says no, it's kind of, it's game over. So it's like using some of the elicitation techniques to the presumptive statements to get out what is actually the root cause of the obstacles, what is actually driving the resistance to change, actually enables you to focus the precious little time you have to influence or sell an idea as a sales comp leader to the things that truly matter for each respective stakeholder within your organization. So you think about for the finance organization, if they're not necessarily as concerned about over budget in one way, but they're actually concerned about paying on a mechanic because of the way it gets accrued, et cetera, from a capitalization or commission expense reporting perspective, you better focus there versus trying to convince them that it's not going to go over budget.
Yeah.
And I think that's an example of getting that out and getting an understanding, having these tools in your back pocket to be able to get that information as quickly as possible so you can focus on selling the right parts of the idea
Yes.
for that change. Maybe to kind of take a little bit of a detour, because the interesting thing with sales comp is, again, you're selling bigger ideas to many stakeholders in an organization. And on the other hand, you're dealing with people's pay, and you'll have, whether it's actual mistakes that occur in the calculation or more often than not, the perception of a mistake on the behalf of a seller, or a misunderstanding of the reporting. You deal with people that feel, like their compensation is not being calculated correctly. So there's automatically this tension, potentially hostility, right? There's an element of a demand, and the information like gap in terms of the sellers may not be aware of all the complexity and the time and effort required to get to an outcome because they just perceive it as, well, it's this simple, why can't it be done? They're not aware of all the complexity that happens in the background, versus what the sales comp team and the sales ops team understands from a technical perspective, the data. And so when you're dealing with that type of exchange, are there any tactics that you've applied or you recommend to kind of bring hostility down, level set, and reestablish trust when you're kind of potentially working from a negative position?
I certainly do.
Okay. I
It's
think the
called,
audience would be all ears for that. Absolutely.
it's something we call the anger cycle, right?
Okay.
So when people are angry or upset, or when I say angry, I don't mean like bloodthirsty angry. I mean, like you described, say, this isn't working right. People
Yeah.
become angry when their world is out of sync, when they don't understand, because we get up every day and we anticipate what's going to happen every day. And if something happens that we didn't anticipate, our world gets out of sync. And then we go like, whoa, what's going on? How come this isn't working? How come that's, and they tend to get a little angry. So the first thing you want to do is you want to provide an explanation. Use empathic statement. So there's anger, there's making empathic statements. So you're pretty upset about this faux pas or this mistake. And they'll go, yeah, yes, I am. And you say, okay, let me explain to you the process, how it works. And if you're lucky enough, their world then becomes what? Back in sync, because now they understand the process. Where before, like you say, they didn't understand the nuances of an extended process or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then if that doesn't work, then you allow that person to vent. Because once you give it an opinion, you're pretty upset about this. Well, yes, I am, because of blah, 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 blah. And so then another empathic statement. So you're upset because you this didn't work out or that didn't work out. Use an empathic statement. An empathic statement is nothing more than mirroring back to somebody their feelings, their thoughts, their words, their emotions.
Yeah.
And so you want to let that person vent a little bit. And so that's usually the first venting empathic statement. If the explanation doesn't work, then they get vent, you allow them to vent, empathic statement comes in,
Yeah.
and then they're going to vent again because now you're listening. They're going like, whoa, this person's listening. Now
Yeah.
they're going to vent again, another empathic statement. And it's difficult for somebody to be angry for a long time unless you're throwing fuel on the fire. So your goal is just mirror back to them what they're telling you. Then when they get to the point where they're done venting, because once they're venting, you cannot engage them in logical thought because they're not thinking, they're just venting. And it's a physiological thing that's attached to that fight flight response. So anyway, then you'll see the what? Shoulders go down, exhale at a breath, I'm done. And that's when you come in with what I call a presumptive statement. That is a course of action you present to that person that they have a very difficult time refusing. So in that situation, I would say, so let's sit down correct this problem, and then we can go over it line by line and correct the problem. What's the person going to say? No, I want to stay angry and I want the problem to continue.
Yeah.
No, you see how you don't engage with angry people, because if you get angry and they're angry, now you're in a kind of a death spiral. It's
Yeah.
like, I get a quick example I like to use is I come home after working TDY, a couple weeks out doing training or something for the FBI. I go home and I expect, hi, honey, I'm home. I expect a nice warm hug and a kiss, right? And we had 3 kids at the time, stair step little kids.
Yeah.
And she says, man, while you were gone, that I had to double, the help I used to get from you. I had to double, overwork and we take care of all the things. Now I'm at a crossroads, right? I guess, well, I'm out making money and defend myself. No, 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 no. Empathic statement. So you feel overwhelmed when I was gone. That's an empathic statement. And she's going to say, yeah, because every Wednesday I like to go out and talk to my friends and get away from the kids, and you babysit. You didn't babysit. I couldn't go out with my friends. And then your empathic statement is, so you miss being with your friends. Well, yeah. So now the presumptive is, why don't I get the kids, take them over to mom's house? You take one of those nice bubble bath things, get dressed up, and we'll go out to have a nice dinner because you deserve it.
No.
What's she going to say? She could
Certainly not.
say,
No. Yeah.
she could say, you're not getting off that easy. And so then you go back into the anger side. So you think you deserve a little bit more compensation for making up for what, because I was gone.
Yeah.
Then how about a spa day? Well, okay. But what have you lost by doing that?
Yeah.
People used to come in my office and they'd be very angry. And I'd say, obviously, I've done something to piss you off. Well, yeah, you did this, this, and that. Okay. And then you let them vent. And you say, well, why don't we sit down and figure out a way we can have a win-win here? They go like, well, that was easy. Well, sure, it's easy because you get them de-escalated and then you give them a course of action. They have a very difficult time refusing.
Yeah. And yeah, and if they don't take it, then you de-escalate again, and then
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
But you can't, and people don't know you're doing it. They don't know you're doing it because you're putting all the focus on them. They think I'm angry. You should listen to me. Yeah, that's what most angry people say. So what are you doing? You're actually listening to that person, finding out what makes that person angry, and you're letting them vent so they feel better. And then you're saying, hey, let's get a solution here. And they're going like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's interesting in all this is like this whole premise of, is this manipulating or manipulation, or is this like a form? Really, what you're actually like, what you're saying, a lot of this stuff, again, it just comes naturally. Like when you say it, you're like, that is the right way to, if coming home from a 2-week trip, wife and 3 kids, like 100%, you could see how like that is the right way you should approach that conversation. It's not about being defensive. To me, I'm like, how much is this like chicken and egg? Do you just listen better, and then naturally by listening better and paying attention to what's happening, these techniques naturally come out? Or do you focus on the techniques and it just forces you to listen better? And so it's like, what is it, chicken and the egg? It's kind of like, yeah,
What I think it is, it's human behavior.
yeah,
All we're doing is looking at human behavior, and what stops us from behaving with empathic statements? It's our ego. We want to defend ourselves. We want to defend our ego. We don't want to say, okay, yeah, I understand it. Yeah, when I was gone, you had a lot of problems you had to overcome. Isn't that what we're supposed to do as humans?
yeah,
We're
yeah,
supposed to identify some need that somebody has and then fill that need to make their life just that much better.
yeah,
Especially a
yeah,
spouse. You don't want to
yeah,
get your wife all mad at you.
yeah,
Besides, think about it. I still got some leftover TDY money, and I've been having nice dinners for 2 weeks. So I get a nice dinner, another one, right?
yeah,
And the
yeah.
government's paying for it because I got a little extra TDY money left. So it's a win-win, isn't it?
It does seem like a win-win. Yeah.
But you can
uh,
do that in sales, can't you? If
yeah,
somebody's
yeah. And I feel like, yeah, you can do it any part of life. I mean, everyone is
anything.
always selling something. Yeah, I actually, this is fundamental, right? You're selling an idea. You're selling a product or service. You're selling a vision. I mean, in every aspect. You know, we've now had the opportunity of chatting multiple times, and I've every time I walk away with another insight, another takeaway. And I think my goal with having the conversation today in for this audience is really just to kind of bring home the concepts that you outline in the book, The Like Switch, which I recommend for the audience and anyone listening. I think it's a really well put together summary of some of the frameworks, and told and I think what I really liked about it is told in a way where there's a lot of anecdotes and kind of
Yeah.
stories from your career, which is always insanely interesting given the unique nature of that work. But in the world of sales comp, we are selling ideas, we're selling change, and we're doing so constantly. If anything, that's kind of
I wrote a companion book with the likes, which called the Truth Detector. And in the Truth Detector, I present 16 elicitation techniques that people can
even better.
use.
Yeah.
So now you have, with both books, you get somebody to like you, and then you can achieve your conversational objective.
Yeah.
Without people knowing that they're revealing secret or sensitive information.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, you're trying to uncover the obstacles for that change, so you can make that change occur. I mean, again, I just can't thank you enough for joining today, Jack.
Well, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are interested in learning more, the Like Switch and the Truth Detector, both great books. And I think there's a ton of content that you've put out online in terms of like videos, interviews that I think are all great listen, and you always share a different story, because I imagine you have a ton of these stories throughout your career. But thank you for taking the time and joining us on the show today.
You're welcome.
The Sales Compensation Show is brought to you by Forma.ai, the sales performance management platform that fully integrates sales planning with rapid, scalable incentive compensation management. Our data platform brings together how you can plan and manage the entire lifecycle of territories, quotas, and incentives. With global customers like Autodesk, Stryker, and Hootsuite, we enable go-to-market teams to plan and deploy even the most complex SPM strategies at speed, taking you from idea to execution instantly. To learn more about Forma.ai, visit our website at Forma.ai. Hit the subscribe button and find more episodes of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.